2017 Conference on Land Policy in Africa. We are on the theme, the Africa we want, achieving socio-economic transformation through inclusive and equitable access to land by the youth. Today's session is going to be by traditional leaders in Africa. It's a policy dialogue between them and ourselves. For those who are tweeting, please remember the official Twitter handle for this conference is at ECA_official, or in capital letters. The hashtag is African Land Policy. So for those who wish to follow you, keep that hashtag going. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a unique session this morning. It is unique in the sense that for the first time in the land policy forums at the continental level, we have traditional leaders whose importance in land policy and land management, I think we all know. We will take the sequence of first doing an introduction, then we shall have 5 panelists. The traditional chiefs. There are 5 among many who are here. There are several others on the floor. Each one of them will have 5 minutes to speak to a number of areas that I'll indicate, after which we shall swing to the floor and we shall allow a free discussion from the chiefs and the participants in the order that the interests would be recorded. As we get started, allow me to make an apology in advance. I want to beg the indulgence of the traditional leaders. One, I know we may not spell their names very correctly as we introduce them. Number 2, we may fail in some of their protocol. These are authorities wherever they come from in Africa. And they do have protocols that we may not be familiar with. So where we breach them, Your Royal Highnesses and Majesties, I request you bear with us. It will not be by intention. I know, for instance, in your traditional setups, people wait for you, not you wait for them. That was the first one we breached this morning. So please bear with us. I know there could be others that we may not be conscious about. I'm sure we all mean well in what we shall do. So as I said, the management of land in Africa cannot happen well without the participation and authority of the chiefs. Those of you who come from jurisdictions where chiefdoms are active will appreciate that if you're trying to move your land policy process or even implement your land policy, you will not do it effectively if you do not have the participation and authority of the chiefs. If you try to make any land law or implement it, you will not do it effectively, however senior you are, without the authority and participation of the chief. So these are critical players in land governance processes. Indeed, it is amazing we've come this far without having them within our continental forums. From the chair, I really want to congratulate the organizers of this forum, this particular conference, for seeing it befitting to invite the chiefs to be with us for this forum. And my hope is that the dialogue that begins today between the high-level policy leaders in Africa and the traditional authorities that are represented here and those that are not, will continue into the future for the benefit of land management within our continent. So allow me now, ladies and gentlemen, to introduce the discussants who are here today. And once I introduce them, I'll be calling them in the order that I will choose to discuss a set of areas. They will discuss depending on how they've organized their thoughts to discuss. We will be keen to hear what they think about land tenure systems and the challenges that we face in Africa. They will obviously be speaking to a key concern of this conference, the youth and access to land by the youth in Africa. Another key area that certainly I think we've been embracing within the breakaway sessions is access to land by women in Africa. We want to hear their views on that too. And another emerging concern is on investments on land in Africa, particularly the large-scale land-based investments. We will also be very keen, because they do have some unique experiences that they have come across as they manage land within their respective places. So we want to hear about some of their experiences from wherever they come. So allow me to start by introducing the panelists. From my extreme left, we have His Royal Highness Framing Stephen Izakare from Uganda. Please welcome Your Royal Highness. Next to him is His Royal Majesty Imfumu Chibe Sakunda, 9 of Zambia. Please welcome Your Royal Majesty. Next to me on the left is His Royal Majesty Vondo Bruno from Cameroon. Please welcome Your Royal Majesty. To my immediate right is Osahene Kwaku Atakie, 2 from Ghana. Please welcome. Thank you. Then to the extreme right, dear participants, we have a bit of gender leveling with the Queen Mother from Ghana, Hajia Azara Bukari Kansawuche. Please welcome Hajia. So thank you. We now want to take the floor with the first discussant. Never mind the interruption happening on the podium. It is okay. It's in the interest of this session. So we will start from, I said I will not use any particular order. So I want to start with the Queen Mother on my right. Please welcome Hajia and address the gathering.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. And good morning, ladies and gentlemen, including my revered traditional leaders here. The land ownership and tenure system in Ghana reflects the established customs and norms. The colonial past and the dynamics of contemporary society have eventually split land administration into 3 main categories: state/public and vested lands, and customary land, which make up 78% of Ghana's land mass. The traditional leaders are part of communities and live with communities. They support communities through the district assemblies, that is the local government system, through the regional and national House of Chiefs. Even though traditional authorities are not to do active party politics, they are political force to contend with in Ghana. In Ghana, traditional authorities are entrusted with the responsibility of holding land in trust for their communities. The importance of land leads to competing and contesting power relations, bringing challenges in the land administration traditional leadership. Women and youth remain the vital labor force. Therefore, to ensure that all stakeholders, regardless gender and age, have equal opportunity to land access. Article 277 of 1992 Ghana Constitution defines a chief or a queen mother as a person who, hailing from the appropriate family and royal lineage and being validly nominated, elected, or selected, and installed or enskinned as a chief or queen mother in accordance with the relevant customary law. In that case, the queen mother does not get her position by privilege of marrying a chief or a king. The uniqueness of the chieftaincy institution is that it embraces all other forms of traditional leadership. The symbol in leadership defines the authority of chiefs and queen mothers spiritually and physically. The queen mother is a reciprocity of traditional knowledge, customs, and traditions which she tries to pass on to the youth, women, and other members of the community, and her advice is respected. The role of women traditional leaders. The status of women in traditional governance cannot be undermined as mentioned earlier. Until recently, however, the position of queen mother was non-existent in some communities and could also be considered as ceremonial figures attached to their male chiefs. In other places, especially among the matrimonial and Guans, the queen mother wields political power. She nominates the successor to the stool when there is a vacancy. She is supposed to be the traditional mother of the community, but could be the mother, the sister, or niece of the chief. She is in charge of the upbringing of children and youth, and in charge of the rites of passage, especially puberty rites for young girls. Over the years, the role of women traditional leaders has transited from being just ceremonial role models to more active participation in local governance. They have mobilized themselves into a national association to have a more unified front to play their respective roles. They are now occupying the corridors of power as well. With capacity building programs being offered them, they are now leading players when it comes to arbitration. They sit in council with their counterpart chiefs to settle disputes through ADR processes. They are integrated from perspective of equity, inclusiveness, sustainability, and assessing governance. They have had capacity building in various programs which make them effective partners in development. The key challenges of the youth in accessing land. Challenges of the youth are numerous. The youth generally are able to acquire land through verbal transactions, whereby they are given permission to use the land, not backed by any documents. The challenge is that they may lose their land if an investor comes with an offer, or if a well-to-do person, in quotes, from the community offers the owner a more lucrative bid. The youth may be offered some fertile land. The youth are not even motivated to go into farming due to many reasons. Farming may not be lucrative, lack of capital or ready market, poor roads.
1 minute left.
Poor roads, and some of them are not educated and are school dropouts. The Africa we want. Africa, a spiritual, economic, and social home to all people, first, and to the rest of the world. We want to embrace Africa's ideas and values. Africa, making optimum use of the human and natural resource for the benefit of all the people. Africa, free from hunger, wars, deprivation, and foreign aid. What is the role of we, the traditional leaders, to make that dream come true? Land is a delicate asset. What we need to do is to improve youth access in land. The youth need to be motivated to take up farming as a business and profession. Traditional leaders and communities need to support the youth to to make them committed to allow them to use the land profitably. The government through traditional leaders need to support the youth to go into joint ventures and block farming. Community rural banks should try to assist youth to acquire land for agriculture. Policies to be put in place to support agric mechanization, technology transfer, fertilizers, and other farm inputs to young farmers so that they can pay back in form of farm produce, which can be stored in silos for food security. Traditional authorities to stand surety to make sure that they help and retrieve the said loans after the harvest so that this can be sustainable in our communities. Customary systems and marginalization of women in Africa. Customary land tenure practices provide the basis for regulating access in many contexts. We define the mode of accessing as holding and utilizing land. Prevailing practices are dynamic. It is negotiable, both to men and women. We can get it through lineage, inheritance, marriages, or by contracted arrangements such as shared tenancy agreements. Even it can be given as gifts. Each of these models of land access has its inherent possible strengths as well as challenges for both men, women, and youth. There are no gender barriers, no age barriers.
Please try to wind up, please, Queen Mother.
Finally, custom is dynamic, and customary tenure is not blamed. National governments should afford equality of economic opportunities for all citizens, particularly women and youth. The state should take necessary steps to ensure the full integration of women and the youth and the mainstream of economic development in Africa. Ghana has signed on to many conventions, including the Millennium Development Goals, Women in Agric and Development, ECT. They are all geared towards ensuring equity and inclusiveness. Finally, communique of the Accra Seminar to support AU 30% land rights for women. This can be achieved if all stakeholders are committed to educating and encouraging our youth in their communities to improve chances of education, health for girls. Efforts should be made to stop child marriage in Africa and allow girls to reach their full potential. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Queen Mother. And I believe from our speech you can tell the role of a Queen Mother. I'm sure a lot of participants on the floor must have been wondering what exactly Queen Mothers do in their respective jurisdictions. I hope she has clarified. Any further clarification can come during plenary. Thank you very much. Allow me to make a correction, I think, in the names, and I begged indulgence of the traditional leaders. that His Royal Highness from Uganda is Drani Steve Izakare, not framing. So apologies, Your Highness. I now want to invite him to share in 5 minutes his experiences from Uganda on the subject that you want to share from us. Please welcome Your Royal Highness.
Your Majesties, Your Royal Highnesses, members of the Diplomatic Corps, honorable ministers, technocrats, ladies and gentlemen, Africans, our well-wishers, I greet you this morning. Good morning. Owira, that's in my language. Owira, okay. We have a saying in my language that says, Olu alu nimori, which means together. It means unity is strength. So can we just repeat it before I go on? Olu alu nimori. Manjora, thank you. I would like to speak on a certain pertinent subject of what's going on in Africa. But before I go any further, I want to pay salutations to our comrades that have gone before us. His Imperial Majesty Haile Gabriel Selassie, I salute him so much, a father in Pan-Africanism. I want to salute our dear brother Kwame Nkrumah. I want to salute our recently fallen brother Colonel Muammar Gaddafi. I want to salute Marcus Garvey of the Black Star Liners, and I want to salute all comrades, slaves and free that have fallen in the deserts, in the oceans, and in the lands for the names of Africa. As my subject today that I want to tackle is the issue of migration and speak a little bit about it. But in relation to the theme of the conference, which is the Africa we want, socioeconomic transformation through inclusive, equitable access by youth. I like to add women, orphans, children, migrants, everyone that is in the custody and under the protection of us as African traditional leaders. In my language, there's something we call opipa koka, which means when someone comes and grabs all on your feet and say, Chief, I beseech your protection. You cannot refuse it. It does not matter what tribe or creed or nationality or origin they come from. That is the duty of traditional cultural leaders, to protect and to offer protection. And many a times this protection gets abused and misused, which led to slavery in the past and colonialism. We have to get past that. It was a long time ago. Yes, indeed, those dead spirits are endeavoring to resurrect themselves in Libya, where it's happening right now that young African men and women are being sold for less than a price of a kilo of meat, for the less than a plate of food that we are going to eat for lunch. Africa is a great continent. Africa is a place, the birthplace of education, organized education. Timbuktu, the first university in the world. Alexandria, where people like Plato, Socrates, and all these people went to receive education, which led to the Enlightenment and bringing into play democratic rule in Europe. and taking the barbarians from the girls and everybody from where they were and creating organized societies that we live in right now. That is Africa. Iron smelting, civilization, and many things, Africa. I call upon us as traditional leaders today to reflect not just on the past gains of Africa, which are plenteous. The first house transplant was done by Africans. There's so many things, traffic lights, many things that have been done by Africans. I call upon us as traditional leaders to see where we fit today in an ever-evolving and dynamic world with a higher population, and yet we are the curators and hold the responsibility to ensure that people have the needs that they need, the access to their needs or the resources to have their needs met. And that is the fact that we are the curators, we are the custodians of lands, customary lands, which are the biggest land holdings in Africa. Time is going, I need to plow on. There are many things, challenges that we face today. High unemployment levels, 80% in some places, 70%, an average of across Africa, I would say 50%. These are our challenges and our responsibilities. As traditional leaders, we are not calabashes on walls, no artifacts. We are actual players in the development and eradication of ignorance, not just in Africa, but across the world. In the days when we used to lead in these things, the world was a much better place. It was a greener place with better flora and fauna, cleaner air, and so many other benefits to human health and well-being. Today, the world we live in is run by greed, corruption, poor leadership, bad leadership, dictatorship, ever-increasing tearing away at the rights of organized society through numerous constitutional changes that don't allow for evolvement just because we are poorly planned and poorly organized as administration units of governments and as institutions. Africa is one place that many of our countries have only got parliaments. They haven't got another checks and balance house where traditional leaders, religious leaders, other servants of Africa that have excelled in what they have offered Africa to sit, to balance the laws that come out of parliaments that are more often interested in party interest than national interest. We have to change that. This kind of way of life or leadership has led to numerous conflicts and wars and disasters, natural and otherwise, and man-made. I hope some of the pictures have been playing. And man-made that have caused so much suffering amongst our population. We have to change this. In Uganda alone, we have experienced the LRA wars and other wars. You know the story of Africa, east, west, north, and south. So I call upon our African leaders and everybody, the traditional leaders, that we play our role in the responsibilities that we have, especially in regard to land, to ensure that the mass unemployment amongst the youth and the children, who are the biggest population right now, 80% in Africa, is catered for. Otherwise, we face a revolution of youth uprising that will thrust the continent into the abyss of our existence. And thus, I want to say, there's examples like in South Sudan and other places where unnecessary conflicts are going on because of ethnic reasons, ethnic cleansing, religious intolerance, and many other corruption tendencies. Large-scale land-based investment interests that have caused communities to be dislodged. This is also part of it. But they'll only deal with administrative governments, not caring about the culture, customs, and traditions of peoples. The world has to change from that kind of thinking, because this kind of thinking that disregards culture and the way of life of people is the same thinking that has brought about wars in Afghanistan, in Iraq, in Yemen, in Libya, and is about to cause another war in South Korea.
Please try to
So,
wind up.
I call upon us as leaderships and partners to embrace culture, and as cultural leaders, to play our role in eradication of poverty, because all wars happen because of poverty, which breeds ignorance and lack of protection. I thank you very much. Because time is limited, there's so much we could talk about. I'll beg to stop here. God bless you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, dear moderator. Excellences, Mesdames, Messieurs, parce que le Cameroun est un pays bilingue, j'ai osé parler anglais, mais je vais m'exprimer en français. Très heureux que vous nous ayez donné l'occasion de dire un mot sur ce que nous pensons de la terre en tant que chef traditionnel. La terre, il faut le dire, est la conséquence, le fruit du sang et de la sueur de nos ancêtres. Ce que nous allons vous dire ici est une expérience d'un plaidoyer qui a été conduit par les autorités traditionnelles au Cameroun à travers certaines propositions qui ont été remises au gouvernement camerounais, lesquelles propositions ont fait l'objet d'une rencontre mise sur pied par le Premier ministre intersectorielle pour intégrer ces propositions dans la réforme qui est en cours. Cela dit, la terre, pour nos autres autorités traditionnelles, appartient à ceux qui sont morts, à ceux qui vivent et à ceux qui naîtront. C'est dire que la terre, pour nous, est un emprunt que nous avons reçu et que nous allons léguer à nos enfants, et ceci de génération en génération. Cela dit, la terre est un bien collectif, inaliénable, incessible, au regard des strictes responsabilités de la coutume, et ceci d'une génération à une autre. Et c'est ça le rôle de l'autorité traditionnelle que nous sommes et que nous assumons au quotidien. Transmettre la terre à ceux qui viendront après nous. Car en fait, on dit dans notre langue, Zoyake, Eli Metin, c'est-à-dire l'éléphant avance et il laisse des traces. Et nos traces, c'est effectivement nos enfants, et céder aux autres la terre telle que nous a été cédée par ceux qui nous ont précédés. Cela dit, le Cameroun qui est aujourd'hui en pleine réforme, forestière, minière, agraire, parce qu'on parle d'agriculture de génération, il y a aussi, entre autres, la réforme foncière. Et c'est dans ce sens que les chefs traditionnels ont fait ces 7 propositions que nous allons vous présenter ici, qui vont en droite ligne avec le sujet à l'ordre du jour, à savoir un meilleur accès des jeunes à la terre ainsi que des femmes. Premier point, première proposition. Nous devons distinguer très bien les terres urbaines et les terres rurales. Car en fait, les terres rurales appartiennent aux villages et dans ces villages que nous serons les autorités traditionnelles. Ainsi, le village doit être reconnu comme le premier échelon de notre administration et avoir une carte pour chaque village. Deuxième point, nous devons reconnaître au village le droit de la propriété sur son territoire traditionnel et institutionnaliser ainsi la cartographie participative. Car à travers la cartographie participative,
Royal Majesty, a little slower because of the interpretation, a little slower. I'll give you a minute or two to cover
thank you
the
very much.
interpretation.
Excusez-moi d'être un peu long, d'être un peu rapide. Yeah, I'll go very slowly. Yeah, so my third point, nous devons reconnaître la validité du droit coutumier pour la gestion de la terre qui est dans les villages. Car en fait, c'est à travers le droit coutumier que le chef se base pour gérer les terres du village. Ce n'est pas le droit moderne. Et ça prête souvent à des confusions. On prend le droit moderne pour qualifier l'action du chef traditionnel. Or, le chef agit par l'entremise du droit coutumier qui lui dit de préserver la terre pour les générations futures et non de l'aliéner, car en fait, si nos ancêtres l'avaient fait, nous n'aurons plus trouvé les terres que nous avons dans nos villages jusqu'à ce jour. Quatrième point, ne pas lier le droit de propriété à l'exigence de la mise en valeur. Car en fait, le droit moderne dit, pour être propriétaire d'une portion de terre, il faut la mettre en valeur. Or, pour les Africains que nous sommes, la mise en valeur ne veut pas dire travailler sur la terre et transformer la terre. Non, il y a ce que nous appelons les forêts sacrées. Et là, on ne touche ni à l'arbre, ni à l'eau, ni à tout ce qui existe. C'est une manière de mettre en valeur. Là où nous faisons nos rituels, là où nous faisons la chasse, nous n'avons pas besoin d'aller couper, car les bêtes ne vont plus vivre. Donc la mise en valeur peut être dans un domaine où nous voyons rien de défriché, rien abattu, rien de construit. Donc nous ne pouvons pas bâtir le droit de propriété parce qu'on dit qu'on a mis en valeur. Il y a une manière de mettre en valeur qui aujourd'hui épouse les grands concepts de l'heure, tels que les changements climatiques, les RED+, et bien d'autres. Et je crois que la tradition nous permet d'honorer cela. Cinquième point, il faut définir clairement la place et le rôle de l'autorité coutumière dans la gestion de l'administration des terres et des ressources. C'est ça qui peut être confusion. À la limite, codifier certains nous permettent, et c'est pour ça que nous parlons à nos partenaires aujourd'hui, de nous permettre de codifier, de documenter nos savoirs traditionnels et même nos coutumes. Cela permettra de savoir que c'est à partir de cet élément que le chef doit agir. Et les uns et les autres comprendront que le chef n'agit pas par rapport à sa tête, mais par rapport à un certain nombre de dispositions qui nous ont été transmises de génération en génération et dont nous avons prêté serment de ne point y faillir. Sixième point, reconnaître le droit foncier des femmes, des jeunes et des minorités autochtones.
2 more minutes, sir. Your Majesty, 2 more minutes.
2 more minutes? Yeah, you told me to go very slowly, and now I have only 2 minutes. Yeah.
That is the extra.
Yeah.
That is the extra 2 minutes.
Yeah, thank you very much. He said 2 plus 2 minutes. Thank you very much. So, il faut reconnaître le droit aux femmes, aux jeunes et justement aux peuples autochtones. Car en fait, les peuples autochtones et jeunes people sont ceux-là qui ont un mode de vie qui est différent des autres. Ils sont des nomades, toujours en train de migrer, ils ne sont pas sédentaires. Et nous devons reconnaître qu'ils ont des droits par rapport à les terres et arrêter les dispositions avec ceux qui sont fixes pour qu'en réalité, dans leur itinérance, ils puissent avoir toujours des espaces pour se mouvoir. Septième point, il faut encourager de grands investissements. C'est-à-dire, personne ne refuse l'investissement, mais que l'investissement ne soit pas un problème pour la communauté. Cela dit, les communautés où on va prendre leur terre pour faire de grands investissements doivent être des actionnaires dans cet investissement. Cela permet qu'ils soient partie intégrante de cet investissement, qu'ils soient désormais ceux qui vont d'abord sécuriser l'investissement, avoir la paix au village, mais surtout permettre la paix locale et surtout nationale et africaine. Nous vous remercions pour cela. Merci.
Thank you very much, Your Royal Majesty, for sharing your Cameroon experiences. More will come during the engagement with the audience. Before I call in the next discussant, allow me again with a lot of humility to make a correction. I begged the indulgence of the traditional leaders. His Royal Majesty Imfumu Chibe Sakunda of Zambia is Chibe Sakunda 11, not 9. His Royal Majesty Imfumu Chibe Sakunda 11 of Zambia, and he is the one now to take the floor with lessons from Zambia, particularly from the perspective of investments.
Thank you, moderator. Your Royal Highnesses, all present at this August forum, or may I simply say, all protocols observed, I'd like to take this opportunity to greet you all. Good morning, everybody. Yes, I'm trying to, in my presentation, I'll try to be as broad as possible because I've been asked to discuss investment. And I'll start first by saying, talking about the anthropological theory, which is one model of human social development rooted in ideas of cultural evolution, which describes chiefdoms as a form of social organization more complex than tribes or band societies, and less complex than societies or civilizations. The most succinct definition of chiefdom is in anthropology is by one Robert L. Canero, who describes chiefdoms as autonomous political units comprising a number of villages or communities under the permanent control of paramount chiefs. Chiefdoms are characterized by centralization of authority and pervasive inequality. At least two inherited social classes of elite and commoner are present. The ancient Hawaiian chiefdom had as many as 4 social classes. An individual might change social class during a lifetime by extraordinary behavior. A single lineage family of the elite class becomes the ruling elite of the chiefdom with greatest influence, power, and prestige. Kinship is typically an organizing principle, while marriage, age, and sex can affect one's social status. All the Royal Highnesses who are present here recognizes the centralization of authority in the African chiefdoms. The centralization of authority in the African chiefdoms remains at the height of the incumbent chieftaincies. It therefore looks like conforming to the above established anthropological definition of Robert L. Canero. Not contesting that understanding, it has become imperative for the African Royal Institution to transcend the following. After over 50 years of African independence, notwithstanding the authority of incumbency, modern regimes of whatever status must begin to mutate authority into functionality. In the process of mutation, ordinary citizens that used to be called subjects must be emancipated and empowered economically by having access to land to enable them to produce goods and services. They have an endowment of in their control in form of land and other resources. They have a labor value able to transform these resources into goods and services of immense use value. As legitimate members of chiefdoms they live in, they can be imbued with transformative skills and abilities to attain mass production of various goods and services at optimum time. This empowers them to hasten their emancipations, improve financial income, and therefore their quality of life. The old classes transform markets and generate increased productivity, leading into increased supply, consequently influencing the falling prices of goods and services. They stop importing food and other items while improving their tools for further production. Their relationship to the market is transcended, so is their perception of the royal establishment across the entire African continent. Robert L. Canero's appreciation of this development is not only acknowledged, but rather equally transcended.
You have 2 minutes, Your Royal Majesty.
The Forum for African Traditional Authorities vision is thus born, writing itself in the vision and prospectus of the Land Policy Initiative. After over 50 years independence, a modern villager is born. A modern villager is born. He has improved status, self-confidence with tooled brain of new and effective technologies. The village is thus green, and enhanced incomes enable the village to be content and fulfilled. The aim to achieve the above as much as possible through existing laws include village registrations so that ensure a peasant becomes an essential tool of development with a definite financial income without recourse to statecraft. As landowners, they begin to learn new means of business organization and methods of service delivery. Every situation has its own strategy, even where the maneuver is prescribed by law. There are always challenges, given the fact that there is a movement afoot to radically compromise customary land statutes and policies in favor of global mining and other resource exploitation, as well as farming. agribusiness investors. The bottom line is that global investors are seeking to annex huge tracts of Africa's customary tenure lands in exchange for investments, which unfortunately are rarely associated with African community empowerment. The course of actions being undertaken by various governments in Africa to attract global capital for development is compromising customary and land tenure rights. The almost unfettered rights being established for investor land control can be examined in government texts, including established and proposed legislation, decrees, rules, and regulations, as well as in administrative enforcement structures and programs. Unfortunately, the land policies that are being codified by too many African governments whose roots are in heroic liberation movements are essentially a systematic economic recolonization of the continent by global investors. The global investor-friendly land policies being promulgated by governments across Africa can be categorized as pro-market and anti-poor. Customary land is an asset of the greatest importance across Africa. It forms the basis of existence, as all forms of production, food, shelter, and human sustenance rely on its presence. In this regard, African traditional leaders are now the leading force to protecting customary land, which is the most important resource that serves the needs of Africans and their livelihood purposes, despite its importance to the nearly 800 million Africans who live in customary land. Customary land holding rights are under profound threat to large-scale land-based investments. A combination of factors on the global stage has, over the last decade, led to a rapid expansion in large-scale investments. Land, or some people are referring to it as land grabbing of customary lands by foreign and local investors in Africa. According to the World Bank, these factors include European policy commitments to biofuels and renewable energy, increased demand for resources by Asian emerging economies, rising and unstable commodity prices, and so-called improved investment prospects, given the increasing global demand for food, water, and energy. Despite the World Bank's rosy portrayal of the advantages of large-scale land-based investments, the facts on the ground tell a different story. Large-scale land-based investments have denied most of the indigenous people in Africa the right to land and decent livelihood, created environmental and associated public health disasters, threatened food, water, and tenure security, and promoted conflicts over the land. I could go on and on and on, but I'm being stopped. I think I'll end here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Royal Majesty, for complying. I want to invite the last panelist on the thematic discussion. Is a chief from Ghana, Osahene Kwaku Atakir. 2, and I will ask him to speak to us like a traditional chief from Ghana. Speak to us, those things that you do in your chiefdom.
Your Excellencies, the organizers, ladies and gentlemen assembled here, I think my Queen Mother has already highlighted the categories of land we have in Ghana, which are mainly 4: group state land, which are managed, the ownership and the administrative functions are vested in the state. But this group constitute only about 8%. We have stool and skin lands, which constitute 78%, which means that the greater amount of land in existence in Ghana are stool and skin land belonging to the traditional landowners, which means that anything that has to be done involving land need the consultation, administratively, everything vested in the stools or in the traditional landowners. So the government, immediately the government assumed power in January this year, that is 2017. The policies mounted first was youth unemployment. And this is what I'm going to talk about. The youth unemployment, meaning that the government had to team up with the traditional landowners to ensure that the youth graduate unemployment and so many unemployment problems existing in Ghana had to be solved. And therefore, the government had to team up with the traditional landowners to ensure that the policies it had come out with would be met. So the Ministry of Food and Agriculture has exceeded even the target of registering 200,000 young farmers at the pilot phase for the first year of the planting for food and jobs policy, which was launched in May 2017. 200,000 registered young farmers. And these farmers, the young farmers, had to be provided with technical support services given by the ministry as at the end of October this year. The number had exceeded almost 2,000. This is a huge success that has given more encouragement to the scale up to the average of 300. So in this case, the government had to come out with another target. The scale had to be jumped to 300,000 farmers and also add crops such as granules and cassava by the end of 2018. This is what the government has come out with. The project sites are spread all over the country. The greenhouse site at the Wenya, Accra region, for instance, had to be tied with Agritop, an Israeli company at the greenhouse site. Vegetables such as cucumber, eggplant, chili pepper, and tomatoes are being cultivated under improved technologies. In the water basin, for instance, there are groups of new young farmers at the Abayime rice farms and Prairie stations, which are this sort of sites have been spread all over the country to ensure that the young farmers who are coming out with interest in farming have to be assisted. There are other sites established all over the country, and the government has got the assistance of the traditional landowners, and this means that the government had to see the apex the apex chiefs at the National House of Chiefs and the regional houses of chiefs, traditional areas, and so on, to come out with large scale of lands, which of course the chiefs met and promised the government to come out with large scale of lands to assist the government. And at the same time, it has been able to come out with every traditional area. It's coming out with 2,000, at least 2,500 acres of land spread all over the country to assist the government so that the youth will come out with agricultural farms and so on. The rural banks and community banks have been asked to assist with financing of these young farmers, which of course have been guaranteed with financial assistance. At the same time, the traditional landowners have been asked, because of the assistance they've received from land administration program, what the traditional owners have realized is that the young farmers need security, and therefore the land being given out are being documented to ensure that the young farmers can have assistance from the banks to enable them to have the needed capital to start with their business. There have been concerns, really, about encroachments and so on, because what the young farmers are saying is that, in spite of the fact that they are being assisted by the traditional rulers and the government, there are encroachments of lands by estate developers and other people, and therefore the government has teamed up with
Please wind up.
the police to make sure that all encroachments have been dealt with, will be driven away, so that there wouldn't be any sort of impediment on their farms. The minister, in responding to concerns is given assurance that the government will continue to collaborate with the private sector, stakeholders, chiefs, and other traditional rulers to make sure that the program it has mounted will be sustained, so that there wouldn't be any problem as far as this is concerned. So, what is noted, why there's a move to actually make sure that the youth unemployment are solved, encroachments problem have been resolved, and so on, and therefore the sort of unemployment problem have been have been solved finally, is that with the one city, one village, one dam project, which is coming out. That's right. Okay. The project, one dam, one village policy is also being pursued, so that agriculture will be pursued throughout the year without any problem during the drying period. So with this problem, the youth employment is being tackled fairly and successfully in Ghana. So, ladies and gentlemen, with this project being carried out successfully in Ghana, the youth employment, which used to be a problem in Ghana, is being solved nicely in Ghana, and I think this will be replicated in other parts of Africa. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you. Dear participants, you can see we are challenged for time. That's why we are trying to rush the chiefs, because we want the participants to engage with their discussion. And I would be happy if the questions coming from the floor, any engagements, engage the traditional leaders on areas that you feel as actors in land governance processes in your respective areas require clarity on, from a government perspective, a private sector perspective, a civil society perspective, and I know there are a lot of scholars here who also would probably want to engage the chiefs in a number of concerns. So the floor is yours. In the little remaining time, about 15 minutes, let's see what we can do, and we can get quick responses from the traditional leaders. I see a hand at the back.
Je vais parler en français. Alors, Mabrouka Agasmi, je représente ici une institution de microfinance, c'est ENDA. Tout d'abord, j'exprime vraiment ma fierté et mon honneur de m'adresser aujourd'hui à des leaders traditionnels africains, ce qu'on n'a pas en Tunisie. Tout le monde s'accorde à dire que votre rôle est très important et même nécessaire pour le maintien de la cohésion sociale dans nos pays. Et je me réfère à une conférence donnée il y a quelques années par un philosophe et intellectuel sénégalais, Cheikh Hamidou Kane, sur la paix en Afrique, et où il a souligné à l'université tunisienne devant la jeunesse tunisienne le rôle des leaders africains traditionnels dans le maintien de la paix avant les colonisations. Alors, on sait que votre rôle est très important dans tous ces problèmes-là. Mais pourquoi alors, quand il s'agit de la femme, quand il s'agit des problèmes liés à la femme, que ce soit l'accès à la terre, l'héritage, les mariages forcés, il me semble que, d'après les témoignages que j'ai recueillis à travers plusieurs pays africains que j'ai visités, et même en Tunisie, le rôle des leaders est plutôt timide, le rôle des leaders traditionnels. Comment, dans ce cas, repenser votre rôle? Vous êtes des passeurs de valeurs. Comment repenser votre valeur dans cette situation un peu conflictuelle dans nos pays? Et je vous remercie.
That we are running on a timeline of 10:30, and we cannot afford to derail the rest of the day's program. So we will not exceed at all. And we will pay a price because we started late. We just have to fit within the time available. So what I want to do now is call in His Royal Highness Drani from Uganda. I want him to do two things. One, respond to the challenge, the input that has been brought in from Tunisia about the role of chiefs and in trying to address the challenges we're having with women accessing land in Africa. Then I know the traditional chiefs have been meeting at a banner called FATA, Forum for African Traditional Authorities. This has had some events in the past. They are with us today. It is under that banner they came over here. And I know they have plans for the future. So we want to hear a little about what you think are your plans for the future under that banner. And please appreciate that because of the formation that they have created, this gives Africa a very good opportunity to be able to engage with them in a very structured manner in future. So we want to thank those institutions in Africa that are already supporting that platform, and welcome others to take note that there is a structured platform with which they can engage with Africa's traditional leaders forwards. So Your Royal Highness, please welcome for the two, and keep it 2 minutes because we cannot afford to go beyond 10:30.
Thank you very much. I hope I'm on air. Thank you very much. In regards to the conflict resolution mechanisms and the issues pertaining to conflicts and women access to land, Uganda has got a wonderful, great land policy. In that, first of all, it acknowledges the rights of traditional institutions over land, its management, allocation, and the resolution of conflicts pertaining to land issues. So for us in Uganda, we have a great framework and a great mechanism, and this has taken years through the work of the Land Policy Initiative here and the government of Uganda to bring this into being. And the 1995 Constitution, which is the constitution that Uganda rides upon, took the land from governments, which was an idea that came from the British East African Empire. That's just a company, and gave it back to the people. And so traditional management systems were recognized. And in our traditional management systems, the woman is the center of the issues pertaining to land. Demonstrably, it's not always what happens on the ground because of the years when the constitution of Uganda was stopped by a previous government. There was no constitutional rule or whatever because it was decreased and stuff like that. You know the history of Uganda. However, in the current government and governance, it has been reestablished. And so the women's rights to land, the children, the family, all individual migrants are catered for in those policies. And we as traditional leaders, the problem that we face is traditional leaders that are stuck in past grandeurs instead of stepping up to the modern world and the dynamics that we face in the growing population and other things, and protecting the rights of the women, who is the center of our being in our society. So in our culture, we have that women are in the middle and the men are on the outskirts, protecting the interests of the women, because we realize and recognize that without the women, we have no future. So that they come first. We have a lot to do. We have a lot of correction to make, change attitudes, protect rights of women by changing attitudes of men and then masculinity, and turn it into a protective masculinity. In relation to peace building and conflict resolution, Uganda right now, we are hosts to over 1 million refugees from the conflict in South Sudan. We recently also had refugees from Israel that were taken to Uganda because they were tired of them in Israel, of our people in Israel. But Uganda, as the source of the Nile, we recognize that everyone has to drink from the Nile, so we are ready to that. The issue of conflict resolution, how we handle it is like this, that we give land to refugees and we deal with the conflicts in the settlements, with resolution mechanisms, and in fact, Rotachana II went to the bush. That's why Uganda is peaceful now, to talk to Konyi, the LRA leader, and bring him back and stop them from fighting. Now, us in Africa right now, what do we want to do? We recognize that the things that have divided us are the borders that were done in Lancaster House and in other places. The issue is, we as Africans, one of the biggest things that have divided our people is the languages that we speak, Francophonism and Anglophonism, the religions and all those kind of things. All these are ideologies. The thing is that we need to recognize that we are born Africans first, before all these religions came into Africa. And so, as traditional leaders of Africa, last year in November 2016 in Ghana, Accra, we decided, when we looked at, when we were sharing our experiences and our best practices, we thought it best to create a forum for African traditional authorities. This will help us not just fulfill our obligations to society, to women and children, of which one of them was that by 2025, 30% of land should be given to women management directly, whether through titling or other ways. Their rights need to be, we are starting a process of moving on equality and equity on land issues. The other thing is that it is going to help us, the body is going to help us to work as a conflict early warning system amongst ourselves in Africa, because we recognize that a lot of the conflicts in Africa are communication issue based. And communication based on cultural intolerance, cultural perceptions of cultural differences amongst ourselves, which disunite us. The other thing is that FATA, the Forum for African Traditional Authority, we aim to also mitigate the difficulty of doing business for investors. You understand me? There's so many difficulties in doing business. There are volatile institutional arrangements, high transaction and settling costs, failure to observe the provisions of investment, treaties, and contracts, whilst we also need to protect the rights of communities that own the land under customary tenure. We have many challenges that we face in achieving this. Obviously, we have to work together with the African Union and its frameworks. We could say some more, but we thank the African Union for this. So thank you very much.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Royal Highness, I appreciate, and you've heard, I think the critical message he's bringing out is that they have a structured mechanism within which Africa can engage. So if we've been listening, and we know the role, the place of chiefs in Africa, traditional authorities in Africa, this is a good beginning. We couldn't do it better. It's a good beginning. We know we have traditional authorities. We know now they have a structure. So I invite actors at country level, actors at continental level, to explore opportunities of engaging with the traditional authorities so that land management within our jurisdiction is better for the future and for our youth. I also want to thank those institutions that I have already been working with this platform, FATA. I think they know themselves. They've got them started, and I think it's a very good thing that they've managed to get them here. So as we wind up, I know there's an announcement coming from the Land Policy Chief, Joan Kagwanja. But before I give back to Joan, I want to invite you to please appreciate the chiefs with a big, loud of applause. And thank you very much all for being here today. I wish you well in the next deliberations which are ahead. Joan, please.
I think that was an excellent session. We want to thank Ibrahim for facilitating it. Also want to thank our traditional leaders. And I believe that with the Forum for African Traditional Authorities, we have a lot to achieve. It's just like we talk about the NELGA program being an amplifier for capacity development, we talk about FATA being an amplifier for land policy development, implementation, and monitoring. Because, as you know, the majority of our lands are managed under their authority. So we just want to thank them for making time to come. We apologize because time is limited. They like to spend maybe half the day with you, but you know how some of these fora are. But with the platform of FATA, we believe that we will have more opportunities to engage with time and at your own direction and pace. So we want to thank you very much. I have just a couple of announcements. One of them relates to the program. We've noticed that some of the rooms are a little bit small, and we are trying to see how to address that. So this morning, the theme 11, Promising Practices and Lessons in Mainstreaming Land, being moderated by Harold. We are moving that from caucus room 10 to this particular room. So that session will be coming to this particular room, conference room 2. We are trying, I have not gotten the response, to see whether we can move the thematic 12, which is in caucus room 11, to another conference room 6. But as soon as I get that communication, we will let you know. So for now, you would just go to caucus room 11 and Syriac. We will let you know whether you will be moving to another conference room. So just go to caucus room 11 for the land conflict and their socio-economic impacts, and we shall see whether we can move that session during coffee break. We shall communicate that with you. Again, this afternoon, there is a session, the Omedia Network, that was supposed to be in caucus room 10, and it's also going to have some audio, some interesting presentation there, and we are moving it from caucus room 10. This is round table 2D. We are moving that to caucus room 2 here. So again, at 1400, round table 2D. Is that correct, Julia? Yes, thank you. One more happy announcement from the Secretariat for those of you that were sponsored by ourselves, through ECA. Your per diem is ready for collection. It will be in room S118 next to ATM machines. So I'm assuming the ATM machines are the ones here. The room is just next to that. We want to make sure it's not disruptive to the sessions. So if you see a long line, you can go back to your session or to your tea and then go and collect your DSA there. And we hope you have a continued happy engagement and network as we move along. Thank you very much and good morning.